Let's bring in our panel and talk more about what we just heard from the president. Back with me, Joe Johns at the White House. Our Mark Preston is with us. CNN senior political analyst Ron Brownstein. He's a senior editor for The Atlantic. Jackie Kucinich also joins us, CNN political analyst and Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast. And Bruce LeVelle. He was executive director for the president's National Diversity Coalition during the campaign. Nice to have you all on with us. And Mark Preston, let me just go to you first and your thoughts.
Presidential, subdued. Pointed out, of course, the contributions that African Americans have given to this country, specifically those who helped lead the fight for equality and equal rights. And, you know, as far as the criticism he has come under for not directly addressing the anti-Semitic wave of violence we have seen sweep across this country, he did today. So the question is, will that be put to rest? So, you know, by and large, Donald Trump acted like a president and not somebody who wakes up at 4 a.m. and starts firing off tweets at his critics.
Bruce LeVelle, to you, as a big supporter of the president, you supported him all through the campaign as well. I just want your take on the comments that we heard from him today, juxtaposed with some of the recent things we've seen, such as him criticizing civil rights icon John Lewis after Lewis called him not a legitimate president, after the fact that, you know, he has not met with the Congressional Black Caucus yet. He said that Congressman Elijah Cummings, you know, did not want to meet with him for political reasons. Congressman Cummings says that's not the case. There's been a lot of controversy and back and forth around all of this. How do you square the two, those things, and then what we heard from the president today, standing alongside Alveda King?
That's a long question. Thanks for having me. Well, first of all, the National Diversity Coalition for Trump is still ongoing. I'm still active as executive director. We are the largest diversity coalition in the history of a Republican candidate, which was founded by Michael Cohen, who's Trump's right-hand person, Jewish American for Trump, and he's, you know, survivor. Dad was a Holocaust survivor. So we have a lot of different facets in our coalition across the country. I have over 1 million plus actively involved. But I just want to put more light back on this historical day. I talked to Alveda King on the phone earlier as I went over here to the studio, and she was very, very emotional. The fact that, you know, finally there's a Republican president, or a president that has really touched the nerve in the hearts of the American people, as he said it in his inauguration speech. You know, it's very profound. And to have Dr. Ben Carson being over HUD and all of the things that we need to accomplish in our inner cities. February 28th, we're meeting with all the HBC university presidents to talk about the dire needs in some of our HBCU colleges. This is very big. And, you know, not to mention my good friend Omarosa, who has the president's ear on a lot of things that we need to accomplish in the African American community. So, you know, my hats off to this.
So then on that point, how will you, Bruce, hold the president accountable to follow through on those promises he made on the campaign trail, saying things like to inner city African American communities, largely in front of white audiences, though, at these rallies? He said, you're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What do you have to lose? How will you hold him accountable?
Well, you know, well, first of all, President Trump, the good thing about, and I've been, you know, with supporting him since 2015 of June, is that what he says is what he backs up. And I think he's proven that, as, you know, in his, you know, month presidency, you know, in the White House. So I'm very elated at the fact that President Trump did take account that there is these needs in these inner cities. But, you know, it's also fair to say, you know, guys, and everybody on the panel, you know, these particular areas and cities have been under Democrat rule for years. So the question is, yeah, what do you have to lose? Give us, you know, give the Trump administration, President Trump administration, a chance to come in here. We're putting our money where our mouth is. So this is very positive. It's awesome, actually.
Jackie Kucinich, he also addressed these anti-Semitic attacks and threats and the wave that we're seeing in this country. We heard him do that just after Hillary Clinton tweeted directly at the president this morning, saying JCC threats, cemetery desecration, online attacks are so troubling they need to be stopped. Everyone must speak out, starting with POTUS.
This was definitely a step in the right direction, certainly. This is the first time he's addressed this directly. But this can't be a one-time thing, because this has been something that has been growing for, you know, quite a while at this point. You know, for example, just last week was when he told a Jewish reporter who was asking about this to sit down. He avoided the question in the past. So this isn't just, you can't just say it once. This is something that if it continues in this country, which it hasn't stopped, he's going to have to continue talking about in order to reassure Americans who are afraid, frankly, that their president isn't going to speak up with them on such a serious issue.
Ron Brownstein, your thoughts, because as Bruce was pointing out, you know, these are struggles that have persisted for a long time for inner city communities, and Bruce makes a point that, look, the president's arguing that Democratic policies have not served them. At the same time, you have you know, the nomination and appointment of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who some African American groups spoke out against because of his past and his track record. How do you think that the president's actions jibe with his words?
Well, the actions are the key, and he'll have lots of opportunity to justify or support what he said he was going to do. First of all, you know, he won 8% of African American voters. He made modest inroads among African American voters. He did better than Republicans did against the first African American presidential nominee, Barack Obama. But overall, his 8% tied for the lowest that any Republican has won in the last 40 years against the Democratic nominee who was not African American. So his beachhead is rather constrained to begin with. And I think, as you say, there are lots of opportunities on the policy. The Justice Department under President Obama was a significant force in pressuring for police reform, for example, at the local level, signing a series of consent decrees with local police departments to change practices. Are those going to be revisited? Are we going to see new ones in other areas? Voting rights, where Attorney General Sessions has a history. That is going to be an issue as well. And let's focus right on where Ben Carson is going to be. Under Julian Castro, the Obama administration aggressively promulgated a series of regulations about fair housing, about kind of extending access, trying to break down residential segregation. What is the future of those initiatives? So on a lot of different fronts, there will be plenty of opportunities for President Trump to kind of put his actions where his words are, and we will have to see how that unfolds in practice.
So, Mark Preston, one thing that I've heard from, you know, some Trump supporters, namely an African-American Trump supporter in inner city Cleveland, who leads a group of inner city residents for the president, right? This is what she did during the campaign. She said to me, he needs to have an inner city town hall. He needs to come here, see our concerns, and address them directly. Not something we've seen yet from the president. Should we expect something akin to that?
You know, I don't think we're going to go as far as to see something like that happen. I think one of his biggest weaknesses, Donald Trump's biggest weaknesses, is his inability to take criticism. And I think time and time again, we've seen Donald Trump get very defensive when challenged about what his personal views are, where his policies are going to lead the country. And I think going into a situation like that, as we've seen over the last couple days with Republicans who have gone home to hold town halls themselves, we've only seen a handful that have actually gone out and talked to those who are challenging these Republicans about the policies that are forthcoming. So I don't necessarily think we're going to see that happen. But, you know, to the point of, you know, actions do mean more than words. And I do think we should give President Trump a chance to try to do something right now. He said he's going to. Let's see if he actually follows through on it.
And Joe Johns, just to button it up with you at the White House, we didn't know if we were going to hear from the president today make these remarks. He did make them. He also gave an interview to MSNBC.
That's right. And to be honest with you, though, this was a perfect venue, the perfect time for the president to step out and say some things that needed to be said, things that were coming to a head, if you will. So an opportunity for him to get himself on the record and move in the direction of what he calls unity. Important also, I think, to point out that many presidents have been very good at symbolism. This was a symbolic event, but as many have said, the issue is what happens next. And a lot of that has to do with budget priorities, and Donald Trump is not the only person who gets to decide. On Capitol Hill, there are a lot of concerns about government spending and reining it in, and how that affects minority communities like the community represented at the African American Museum remains an open question, Poppy.
It's an important point. Joe Johns, thank you very much. Mark Preston, Ron Brownstein, Jackie Kucinich, Bruce LeVelle. Nice to have you all with us. We're going to get a quick break and we'll be right back on the other side.